When we talk about best practices for faculty development, we should look at it from a framework for national survival. And I'll explain this. Uh, this means basically watching out for the number 21, which is not only Roberto Clemente's number, but is also the number of the century we're living in. And we have to take into consideration China also, because there's no way we can compete with China in terms of mass produced cheap products. And this means that our economies have to be geared towards what we're strong in, which is creativity. Naturally, to understand globalization, we have to see it more than just something simple in black and white. It's very complex, unites peoples from all over the world and people that have different cultures and understandings. And it's important for us to be able to understand globalization from a people to people perspective. When we look at the literature, higher education in a globalized society has been discussed. Unfortunately, has been discussed in small pockets of educators, and it has still hasn't been massified for all educators. And when we look at, for example, a document here by the Committee for Economic Development, the concerns there are for harnessing openness, breaking down the walls to improve research, teaching, and learning in higher education. It's important for us, for all of us, to discuss these issues. And when you look at the recent meeting of the American Economic Association, and we see the discussions that have been held concerning academia and its divorce from society, we have to straighten this out because if we don't, we're not going to be able to survive. And survival, national survival, is not an option anymore. It's a necessity. And when we discuss it, when we need to discuss it, it should be more than just discussing the problems and how the jobless rate has gone up. When we look at this cartoon, which is very unfortunate, really, this cartoon, it shows the husband going through the door and saying, "I just got laid off today," but fortunately he got a new job. And if you look, he's working for McDonald's. And when you look at a McDonald's, at these franchises, you can look at it from a hamburger flipping perspective, or you can look at it as a global organization. And depending on our preparation and our understanding, we're going to be either flipping hamburgers or we're going to be understanding this global phenomena, such as McDonald's. And the reason why we're not understanding this is because we're still tied to the 20th century. And this scene that we're seeing here of a mass produced education is corresponding to a mass produced economy. The economy that is no longer the type of economy that we need. And if we look here, we're seeing a scene that is very similar to what happened in the last century. But this scene really is not for us. This scene is for China. To understand what's happening here, if we look at the 20th century produced distance education models, and these models have their course designs that correspond to these models. Naturally, faculty development has corresponded to this. They're in synchronization. And this faculty development model has a number on it. It's called 20 because it corresponds to the 20th century. And unfortunately, courses that correspond to the 20th century is going to produce unemployment in the 21st century. What we need to do is look at the 21st century and develop distance education models that correspond to this century. Naturally, this means course designs that are new and responsive to the 21st century. Faculty development has to correspond to these new course designs, which means that this faculty development has to be recognized with the number 21, the 21st century. This synchronization has strong implications. The need for this synchronization. When we look, for example, at the percentage of people who are registered as undergraduates, we see here that Rhode Island, Vermont, Puerto Rico, they're pretty up there. In fact, Puerto Rico is number 5 of 51 jurisdictions. So there are a lot of people registering as undergraduates, and what corresponds to the knowledge society, which is graduate studies. What we're going to find is that Maine, New York, and Puerto Rico also have good percentages. In fact, Puerto Rico is number 11 of 51 in terms of the percent of people that are undergoing graduate studies. This is a good number. But if we look at retention now, we're going to be seeing something else. Let's look at the percentage of people over 21 that have graduated from these programs. What we find then is that Puerto Rico is in the really in the lower part. It's actually number 48 to 51. What this tells us is that people are studying, they're registering, they're undergoing courses, but they're not finishing, they're not graduating. This presents a problem. There's a big but to this. The but is that 1.6 billion dollars is being invested in education. 1.6 billion dollars in all aspects of education is being poured in to a model that is not producing graduates. Now, what does survival mean in this environment? Well, it means that we have to be talking about mass education, but not mass education in terms of mass production, monolithic education. We're talking about personalized education from the BA, master's, and doctoral level. What we're talking about is internationalization, which means respect for diversity, and this respect is gotten not by talking about people, but actually by dealing with people. We have to collaborate and study with people on the international scale. And it means a greater use of technology, but not regular traditional technologies, but rather innovative technologies. And if we have the new Google Nexus as an indicator, if your educational system is telling the kids to turn off their smartphones and their computers, that means you have basically a 20th century model. The 21st century model is going to be asking the kids to get smartphones and to communicate. Thank you very much.